You're a helper. I get it. You want to help people. That's what you do. But now you need a business to support what you're doing. Makes sense, right? Because you can't just keep helping for nothing. You've got to make money, put food on the table, etc. But you didn't go to school for business necessarily, and you didn't really want to do business. You wanted to help people. So what the hell are you supposed to do now? Well, that's why we have Tiffany here today. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, why this topic matters to her, and why it should matter to you. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Shauna, for having me on your show. I'm really proud to be here, actually, and help share some insights on my personal experiences with a private practice, locally based in Calgary, Alberta. And so, we've been 5 years in, and I'm excited to share a little bit about my experiences. So, personally, I am a registered clinical social worker, and coming, out of a 15-year career on the front line of mental health care on the streets of Calgary, going to shelters, working with high-risk clients, very vulnerable populations.
It was our first night together where we spent.
Apparently, things are going off in my office. It's all right. I think that
scared me. It's like, so I was like, there's a producer that's like, cut.
No kidding. No, it's okay. Welcome to reality, everyone. When you're wanting to run a business, sometimes your computer talks to you. I have like 2 computers in here, and this one wanted to say hello. Hello, computer. You're going to have to take a back seat. It's Tiffany's turn to talk now. Thank you very much.
No worries. Okay.
So the streets of Calgary.
I love that. The organic flow of our environment. Having come out of a career that was so incredibly informing of my approach to running a business, I had arrived during the COVID pandemic in 2020, where my partner and I were just sort of figuring out, how do we respond? I personally was impacted. I had a job loss temporarily as a response to the pandemic. And we were sort of we had sort of discussed owning our own business. And actually, I've never shared this, but we had previously discussed, opening up other kinds of businesses. But, my calling has always been in healthcare. My calling has always been in social work and supporting people. And, I feel incredibly blessed to be able to do something that I absolutely love. And it's something that I am who I am, not just as a professional, but in my personal life, that's sort of, like a compass of social work values. So, in social work school, you're going and getting your degrees and you're going to grad school. Nobody talks to you about how to run a business, right? So my experience was truly about figuring it out with my partner from the ground up. I mean, over the last 5 years, we've certainly kind of figured it out and leaned on to a lot of my colleagues in the private counseling space who've sort of helped give me recommendations, provide some guidance, but we've sort of wanted to make something unique to our own approach to counseling. And so I think, and business, right, which those two often don't go hand in hand, but nobody tells you how to run a business when you're in the helping profession, let alone healthcare, right? They're almost like oil and vinegar to some degree for many people's concepts, right? And so I think what inspired me to have this conversation was to share a lot of the values and takeaways that I've learned along the way that have been successful for us in connecting with our clients, being able for our clients to connect with us and find us, but more importantly, find a business that resonates with people. And you can do that and still help people, and you can help people well by providing them high degree of quality care.
That is so impactful. Just like the idea that, hey, guess what? You are able to have both. Because a lot of times people fall into this idea of martyrdom, right?
Yep.
This idea that I need to help, but I can't possibly ask for something for that. I can't, how could I, that goes against whatever preconceived notions I have within myself that probably aren't your own in the first place, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to really thinking about mindset and subconscious programming.
Yeah. I mean, Shauna, I can't begin to tell you how many times in my career that my leaders or my organizations or somebody in the helping profession told me that I didn't do this make a good living, that I had signed up to basically be very limited in my ability to provide not just for myself or my family, but working 2 and 3 jobs. Like, I had succumbed to this idea that if you're a social worker, you've signed up to be a bleeding heart, quite frankly. And I don't necessarily believe that you can do really meaningful work and make an incredible business out of your passions.
I think that this is really interesting, because if we turn this around and we start thinking about the impact you could make if you were not only still staying in your lane of helping, of being in service, but also allowing yourself to thrive, filling your cup, living in abundance in a variety of ways, not only just wealth, but wealth is a part of it, right? Imagine how much more you could give were that the case. That's the power of being able to develop and really hone in on your business skills as well as your helper skills. And that's what you did over the course of the last little while. So what was the first thing, in your humble opinion, that needed to get done? Like, what did you need to learn in order to really step forward in your business?
Yeah. Well, first things first is SEO, search engine optimization. I mean, let me just tell you, this was like, it sounded like a UFO to me. But I mean, if people can't find you and they can't reach you, and among a market of many, many other choices, that was the first and foremost priority for myself and my business partner to get our heads around, right? Like, how do we make space for us in a space that's so saturated with choices for in our space of private counseling? But like, how do people find us? And SEO was the first thing that we recognized was a major priority.
And where did you go to kind of unearth the keywords that are necessary for optimizing your search engine?
Yeah. So my co-founder was and is still to this day instrumental and she quite frankly is like sort of self-taught. We did partner with a marketing agency who's been with us since almost day one. They've also been very helpful in us hearing our voices, right? Like, representing us in the way that we truly want to connect with our clients, but working with a marketing agency and really sort of taking on that sort of self teaching and figuring out, like, what is SEO? What does that mean? How do people, how do you gain visibility in your community, right? And there's so many different things that constantly change, be it algorithms or whatnot. But it's changed and morphed in a number of different directions, and it has actually its pros and cons, if I do say so. But I would say for anybody who's interested, the importance of marketing in your business has been the difference maker between many people who I know have tried to go on their own and hadn't considered that, versus people who've really put an effort into organic authority.
I can't oppose that, obviously, because that's part of my shtick. But I'm not surprised, but I'm very pleased to see that you made that realization early in your journey. And I think it's really impactful to consider not only how you're showing up, broadly speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you're making sure that, oh yeah, I've started a business and I'm gonna put the word out there using whatever search items I can find, whatever keywords I can find. But instead, you've actually relied on an authority, a marketing firm, in combination with your own drive and your partner's drive to actually learn the thing. Because it does, while you can put everything into the hands of a marketing agency, the power comes from being able to authentically show up as yourself and give informed feedback to all of the steps in that journey, to making sure that when they're putting the information out there, they're specifically targeting the person down the street from you, especially when you are a helper who does in-person services as well as digital services, when you're talking about online counseling, things
Yeah.
like that. But typically there's a very clear geographic demographic.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, I feel actually kind of sentimental about the evolution of our business. Like, when we first started, my co-founder and I, we were putting flyers up in local cafes, in universities, and we literally printed out like boots to the ground. Like, we're talking about marketing. Those were some of the efforts that we made. We literally went from place to place to put up our poster when it was just me as the sole practitioner at VCC. And like, I actually feel really sentimental about how far we've come and how much, even our website, like we initially made our website, and we were, working through a company who we'd be calling all nights, trying to like fix things on our own and create it and it's just been such a journey, but it's something that just had needed updating, and bringing on a professional marketing agency helped us sort of with that brand, like revamping, revitalizing our brand, and just giving us some tips. But it was like early stages. We're talking like this is like very, very boots to the ground type of efforts. Like we put in ads in local, community flyers. Like we did like any avenue that we could try to kind of test what had a return on investment.
And I mean, and that too, understanding the ROI. I love that you said boots on the ground, because the first thing that I said was in my brain, of course, was feet on the street, man. You gotta do the work, and that's the thing. A lot of people think that, well, because they've been fed it, and I want to really hone in on this part here. The online entrepreneurship community has been fed by force this idea that if you build it, they will come. And the problem with that is it's a lot like, actually, I don't know if I just recently watched this with the kids. I feel like I bring up Disney movies all the time or something, but
I thought we were talking about Field of Dreams.
Well, the same difference, right? It's the same idea. In this case, I'm thinking The Princess and the Frog with Tiana. Wish on the star, wish on the star. Well, no, you also have to work.
Yeah.
You've got to do the work. And sometimes that looks like feet on the street. Sometimes it looks like hustling and learning the behind the scenes things, your ROI, KPIs, your SEOs, all of those acronyms, they mean something, and you've got to know what they mean. Because if you just jump to outsourcing, you will not have a good, firm understanding and hold on your business direction. I think that's a really important thing that we can kind of talk about here, because as a helper, you just want to serve your clients.
Yeah.
You just want to meet with them. And so it's going to be your impulse is going to be, get somebody else to do that. Somebody who they know it. Let them do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's trouble that comes with that. And I mean, and this is coming from somebody who does it, right? Like there is trouble that comes with that. I'm always, I don't want to say begging, because that sounds horrible, but I really urge people to keep your fingers in the pot, at least a little bit.
You got it. I agree. I don't think anybody knows your business more than you do. And I think the problem with a lot of in the industries that I work with, and I actually had to scale back myself. I was so busy trying to get the business going, and thankfully I had a partner. Like I said, I had to work in the business, so I'm doing sessions and seeing people, and that has me removed from really growing it and nurturing it, watering it, and loving on it. Right? When you're working in the business instead of on the business, that on alone is sort of, to some degree, stagnant on where your dreams will take you if you apply that same effort. And I had to personally really reduce and limit myself with supporting the clients that I have as a therapist in order for me to grow, because as our business grew, so did our team, and so did the responsibility of supporting them in getting a stream of clients that they're doing amazing work with, right? So there's this sort of dual responsibility of trying to obviously generate income for the business, but also grow it as well. And I can tell you, it has changed so much from me working in the business versus on the business. It's created relationships I would have never had made if I was in session, 5 days a week and not out there, even putting my ear to the ground on what's happening in my community, being able to understand what's happening, what are the culture shifts, what are, who should I connect with? But it's not about, you know, it's about cultivating relationships, and relationships has been truly, I think, the difference maker.
Absolutely. And this is something that I will preach till the end of the days. This is about marketing, is to create those connections, those relationships. But you brought up a
Mhm.
really interesting point of view about your team,
Yeah.
about delegation, and about really working on your business, because that's a really important kind of next step. Once you get the momentum going, using strategic marketing and other
Mhm.
tactics like that, now you have that choice. Do I work in my business and just let it go? Am I happy to be plateaued? That's okay if you are. I just want to put that out there too.
Sure.
There are a lot of
Yeah.
people who are like, no, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Steady thrum. Okay, no problem. But if your objective is to scale, now we're looking at a little bit of a different approach. Now, how do I attract the right people for my team, depending on their roles? Because if they're going to be therapists, that's a whole different story. But then if they're going to be people who create content, people who do video editing, maybe they're not necessarily providing the services that you're providing, but they're helping you to continue to provide your services in different ways, right? There are different ways to feed your team. So what does that look like? Let me phrase it this way. Team dynamics, brand culture.
Yeah.
How do we, as a startup, ensure that it is stable and doable, sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
while
Mm-hmm.
we run that side of the business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say that every single person who has contracted their services with us at VCC has been so incredibly intentional, and so I've been so picky and choosy to make sure that we have people who match and align with our culture, with our vision, with our dreams, and with our beliefs as a practice group, right? Like as a team striving, so that, because all the people who work for VCC are also independent contractors, so they are in essence small business owners themselves, right? And it's important that like our mutual needs and our objectives and our dreams align in the ways in which we like to support our clients. And so really, first and foremost, teasing out people who I'm very aware of, like, that won't be a fit. Like, personally, I really enjoy approachable, relatable practitioners that not just bring like a wealth of experience and expertise, but are easy to connect with. Like, so that to me is, I had tried to imagine, like, hey, if I was a client, could I imagine seeing myself talking to this person? And that was sort of like worked well for me, because as a user of mental health services, I'm a big promoter of not just my clients getting care. I'm a big promoter of everybody getting care, including myself. So it's like, sort of putting yourself in the view of the client, and how a client would receive that person was sort of my first approach to choosing and selecting our team. Now, in terms of selecting or scaling, what really worked well for us was, having a very clear strategic growth plan and working backwards. And so really working backwards to get there before trying to take on too much, being very focused and very again, intentional about how we achieve that strategic growth. And things change along the way, and I think normalizing those hiccups is also important to note. But really like having a good solid foundation, having a clear understanding of what your objectives are. And I love your point, Shauna. Not everybody wants to be a big business. Some people are completely satisfied, and rightfully so, to be solopreneurs, and that's more than great. And but we knew what our dreams were. Our dreams are to be a household name in private practice in our communities, and also be a partner in our community, so that our community recognizes us the same. And so that includes supporting initiatives that match our values, volunteerism, going to resource fairs. So those are just some examples about how those like tentacles were all very mindful about what we wanted to achieve. And it really started with getting a great team alongside us. And we're like a small family, like an extended family. These people are incredible at what they do.
So first of all, I love this story. I'm seeing it like just thriving and continuing to spread throughout the community, and then of course throughout the professional community as well. I think that that's really beautiful, and the only way that that can happen, and the only reason that that is happening, is because of a few things that you said just now. And I want to see if I can kind of condense it into something that I've actually said before. So if you can, anybody watching, if you can remember another episode where I've said this, maybe tag it down in the bottom, because then then people can look and see. Maybe I dive deeper. So you talked a lot about intentionality, and one of the first things you discussed was that foundation, making sure that you really understand who your brand is and how you want it to be represented. So oftentimes expressed through not only what you're doing, feet on the streets, but also who you're allowing into that space, and having that solid foundation intentionally. Then you mentioned way up here, I'm going to see if I can put this in my screen here, way up here, you have your goal, right? Very intentional goal, very meaningful goal, something that makes sense for you, makes sense for your team, makes sense for your community, and more. Tied to your values, right? And we're going to work backwards to make sure we have a solid path that connects that foundation, that strong sense of who you are and what you stand for, with who you are becoming and the impact that you're going to make. And then you can follow that path in a more direct and clear route that will essentially achieve your goals, and then some. And as you say, you may divert a little bit because hiccups happen, but because you have that path, it's your map. It's easier to get back on course and achieve the impact that you were wanting to achieve. That's something that I cannot stress enough, is vital to growing your business in a way that feels good to you and is well received. And if I'm being honest, feels good to all of the people around you. It feels good to work with people who get it, who are on the same page, and who know what it's about, whatever it is, right? Now, that said, I feel like we could probably dive into about 18 million other ways that we can grow our business in a very meaningful way, while still harnessing that helper gene within ourselves, really leveraging that. But we do not have the time for 18 million other topics. So what I'm going to ask you to do, Tiffany, is to share with the people something that they really need to hear. After hearing all that we just discussed, what's the next thing that they should be considering? But before you share that, I'm going to let you think about it for a moment. And I want to remind everybody else that this type of conversation happens every single week. Every week you get to join us and explore, what does this look like for me? Because remember, it's not about, does this apply to me? It's, how does this apply to me? What can I learn from this to excel in my personal and business life? Hit the bell, subscribe, make sure you don't miss the next call. Now, Tiffany, please take the stage and let people know what they need to hear right now.
Yeah. I think going back to sort of some of those grassroots, right? Remembering your why. Why do this in the first place? Like, your why will always be the anchor through good days and bad days, through uncertainty and fear. And I think your why is at the heart of everything that you do. As long as you have your why, you can't go wrong.
Oh, This is one of those million topics that we could dive so deep into. Why is powerful. And sometimes it's hard to kind of discover what your why is as a business owner, but also as an individual, which is why you need help. So feel free to
Yeah.
share.
And and I would strongly encourage, like, look, everybody out there needs support. So whether you're a business owner, whether you're an entrepreneur in other avenues, or somebody who's going through life's challenges and uncertainties, we're here. We've got your back. And we would invite anybody who's interested in getting a confidential support, a safe place to share your story, to schedule a free phone consultation. Our therapists have got your back, and we really invite anybody who's interested in moving towards their optimal health and wellness to give us a call, and we'd love to work with you.
I love that. I think this is actually a really powerful call to action, because a lot of times as business owners, we're not just business owners. We're also parents. We're also community members. We're also, children, sometimes in that sandwich generation. And how do we manage all of these very deep-seated rules and emotions that come along with, who knows, past traumas, things. And that could be the thing that's blocking you from really uncovering your why or your goals, or breaking past the glass ceiling that just you can't damn well get it. It might not be a business coach you need. It might be a safe and secure counseling space where you can really dissect this stuff so that you can move forward in a way that feels aligned and relieving. So with that, I strongly suggest you check out the link in the show notes, book your complimentary call. You might as well find out where you can go, because if you're sitting here going, yeah, that sounds good, this is the time to do it. With that, I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day. Make sure you reach out. If it's the marketing side of the things you need, though, if you're like, no, it's tactical, practical, I'm always here. So go to ShaunaLeigh.com, ShaunaLeigh.com, and I'm your gal. We will chat very soon. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye now.